The warning ignored, the massive form of Admiral Dex Fortunus cast a shadow across the command deck of the Hegemony dreadnought, Sovereign's Wrath. His 8-foot frame was covered in the traditional combat armor of his people, each piece etched with victories from a dozen conquered worlds. The Admiral's 4 eyes glowed with satisfaction as he watched the tactical display show 3 small human cargo vessels surrounded by his battle fleet. Pathetic, he rumbled to his second-in-command, Captain Rexus. Look at those ancient hulks. They call starships. Our smallest fighter craft could destroy them without effort. Captain Rexus shifted nervously beside him. The younger officer had spent time studying galactic history, unlike his superior who preferred action to dusty records. Admiral, perhaps we should reconsider. The old treaties specifically mentioned the old treaties were written by cowards. Vortinus interrupted, his voice booming across the bridge. 300 years of fairy tales about mysterious human powers. I have fought across 50 star systems, Captain. I know what real strength looks like, and those rust buckets are not it. On the view screen, the lead human vessel appeared almost comically small next to the Hegemony warships. The merchant vessel, Lucky Strike, was barely 300 meters long, its hull showing the wear of countless interstellar journeys. Paint flaked from its sides, and several of its sensor arrays looked like they had been repaired with spare parts from a dozen different worlds. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Lucky Strike, calmly watching the alien warships that surrounded her small convoy. At 42, she had been hauling cargo between worlds for almost 20 years. Her weathered hands moved steadily across her ship's controls, completely unperturbed by the massive weapons pointed at her vessel. Captain, her communications officer called out, the Hegemony Admiral is demanding we prepare for boarding. He says we're carrying contraband through their space. Alina smiled slightly. Tell the Admiral that we're in neutral space, according to all galactic charts. Our cargo manifests are available for inspection, but we're not subject to Hegemony law here. Her first officer, Commander Singh, leaned closer to her chair. Alina, there are 47 Hegemony ships out there. Their flagship alone could vaporize our entire convoy. I know, Alina replied quietly. Send a message to Earth. Simple text, situation being handled. Cargo delivery may be delayed, that's all. Commander Zirakel watched the unfolding situation from the observation deck of Nexus 7 station. As security chief for one of the galaxy's largest trading posts, she had seen plenty of incidents between different species, but this felt different. The Veil-Thin Hegemony had been expanding aggressively for the past decade, and their Admiral Vortinus was known throughout the sector for his ruthless tactics. But it was the humans that concerned her most. In her 60 years of life, Zira had learned to read different species fairly well. Most beings showed fear when facing overwhelming force. The humans on those cargo ships showed no such emotion. They moved with the calm efficiency of people who knew exactly what they were doing. Her assistant, a young Nexari named Klix, buzzed nervously beside her. Chief Kell, should we intervene? The Hegemony forces are clearly violating neutral space protocols. Zira's tentacles twitched with uncertainty. No. Something tells me this situation is beyond our authority to handle. Aboard the Sovereign's Wrath, Admiral Vortinus grew impatient with the human responses. They dared to lecture me about law. Captain Rexus, prepare boarding parties. We'll search those vessels personally and show these primitives what happens when they disrespect the Hegemony. Sir Rexus protested. The ancient records clearly state that interference with human vessels has led to complications in the passed, Vortinus turned all four of his eyes on his subordinate. "Captain, are you suggesting that these rust buckets pose a threat to the most powerful military force in this sector? That their primitive kinetic weapons and chemical rockets could stand against our quantum disruptors and matter converters?" "No, sir, but the disappearance of the Keth coalition, the vanishing of the Mordok Empire, the complete evacuation of the myths and legends," Vortinus snarled. "Stories told by weak species to explain their own failures. I will not have my officers cowering before human fairy tales." The boarding operation began with typical hegemony efficiency. Massive assault shuttles launched from the warships, their hulls bristling with weapons. Each shuttle carried 50 fully armed soldiers, more than enough to overwhelm the small human crews. Alina watched the approaching shuttles with the same calm expression she had maintained throughout the encounter. "All crew members, please move. 2 designated safe areas. Offer no resistance. This will be handled according to standard protocols." Her crew moved with practiced precision, as if they had rehearsed this exact scenario countless times. No one seemed panicked or afraid. They simply followed their captain's orders and waited. The hegemony soldiers that boarded the Lucky Strike were surprised by what they found. The human crew was polite, helpful even. They provided complete manifests, opened every storage compartment, and answered every question without complaint. The cargo holds contained exactly what the shipping documents claimed: agricultural equipment, medical supplies, and consumer goods destined for colonies in the Outer Rim. "There's nothing here," reported Sergeant Vex to Admiral Vortinus. "Just regular trade goods and a crew of 23 humans." "Search again," Vortinus ordered. "Scan for hidden compartments, encrypted data storage, anything that might be contraband." Hours passed. The hegemony soldiers tore apart the human ships with meticulous thoroughness, but found nothing illegal. The humans remained cooperative throughout the entire process, even offering the soldiers food and water during their extended search. It was during the 4th hour of the search that Lieutenant Gax made an unsettling discovery in the Lucky Strike's computer core. "Admiral, I've found something strange. These ships' navigation computers contain star charts that show sectors of space that don't exist in our databases." Vortinus studied the data with growing confusion. The human charts showed solar systems, trade routes, and colonies in regions that appeared empty on hegemony sensors. "Explain this, human," he demanded of Alina. "Those are standard navigation charts," Alina replied simply. "We use them for cargo deliveries. But our sensors show nothing in those coordinates. Empty space." Elena's expression didn't change. "Your sensors are very good, Admiral. Among the best we've encountered." Something in her tone made Vortinus uneasy, though he couldn't identify what the human's words were respectful, even complimentary. But they felt like a warning. As the search continued, other strange discoveries began to accumulate. The human ships contained tools and equipment that served no apparent purpose. Their computer systems used programming languages that hegemony experts couldn't decipher. Despite claiming to be simple cargo management software, most disturbing of all, the humans themselves showed no signs of stress or fear, despite being completely at the mercy of a hostile force. Captain Rexis found Admiral Vortinus in his private quarters, reviewing reports with growing frustration. "Sir, the boarding parties have completed their search. No contraband found, no treaty violations. By all accounts, these are exactly what they appear to be. Merchant vessels carrying legal cargo. Then why do I feel like we're missing something?" Vortinus muttered, studying the tactical display that showed his massive fleet surrounding 3 tiny human ships. "Perhaps because we are," Rexus said quietly. "Sir, I've been reviewing the historical records. Every species that has attempted to detain or threaten human vessels has experienced consequences." "What kind of consequences?" Rexus pulled up a holographic display showing galactic maps from different time periods. The Keth Coalition controlled 43 star systems. They intercepted a human exploration vessel 800 years ago. Within 6 months, their entire civilization had relocated to another galaxy. Not destroyed, not conquered, relocated, voluntarily. Impossible. The Mordok Empire had the most advanced military in their region. They demanded tribute from human trade ships. Their entire species chose to enter suspended animation and are still sleeping in automated facilities, scattered across dead worlds. Vortinus studied the historical data with growing unease. These are coincidences, internal conflicts, natural disasters, economic collapse. "Sir, there are 47 documented cases over the past millennium. Every single species that has attempted to coerce or threaten humans has either vanished, relocated, or voluntarily removed themselves from galactic affairs." The Admiral's 4 eyes fixed on his subordinate. "Are you suggesting that humans possess some kind of hidden weapon? Some secret technology that can destroy entire civilizations?" "I don't know what I'm suggesting," Rexus admitted, "but I know that species don't abandon their homeworlds without very good reasons." As if summoned by their conversation, a communication request arrived from the human vessel. Alina Rodriguez appeared on the view screen, still maintaining her calm demeanor despite hours of detention and searching. "Admiral Vortinus, I hope your inspection has been satisfactory. Our crews have cooperated fully with your people, and we've provided complete documentation for our cargo and destination. Your ships will remain under detention pending further investigation," Vortinus declared. "I understand," Alina replied. "However, I should mention that we have a delivery schedule to maintain. Our cargo is expected at Kepler Station in 48 hours. Your schedule is no longer my concern." Alina nodded as if she had expected this response. "In that case, Admiral, I need to inform you that this situation is now being handled according to Earth protocols. I'm sure you understand." The transmission ended, leaving Vortinus staring at a blank screen. Something about the human captain's final words sent an inexplicable chill through his massive frame. "Earth protocols?" he asked Captain Rexus. "I don't. No, sir. It's not mentioned in any of our intelligence reports about human customs or procedures." Across the bridge, Lieutenant Gax looked up from his sensor station with a confused expression. "Admiral, I'm getting some strange readings from the human vessels." "What kind of readings?" "I'm not sure, sir. Their energy signatures are fluctuating in patterns I've never seen before. It's almost like their ships are ... humming." Vortinus moved to the sensor display and studied the data. The 3 human cargo vessels were indeed producing unusual energy patterns. Nothing threatening, nothing that resembled weapons, charging, or shields activating. Just a subtle, rhythmic pulse that seemed to be growing stronger. "Could be engine harmonics," Captain Rexus suggested. "Old vessels sometimes develop quirks in their power systems." But even as he spoke, Rexus felt the same inexplicable unease. That was affecting his superior. The humans were too calm, too cooperative, too accepting of their situation. Most species would be demanding diplomatic intervention or threatening economic retaliation. The humans simply waited, as if they knew something the hegemony did not. On Nexus 7 station, Chief Sirakel noticed the energy fluctuations as well. Her station's sensors were more sensitive than military equipment, designed to monitor thousands of different vessels and energy signatures simultaneously. What she saw in the readings from the human ships made her reach for her emergency communicator. "Get me the Galactic Council archives," she ordered her assistant. "Priority search for any records relating to Earth fleet protocols or human defensive measures right away, Chief." Minutes later, Klix returned with a datapad, his compound eyes wide with what might have been fear. "Chief, the archives contain very little information about human defensive capabilities, but there are references to something called the Cascade Protocol in several incident reports." Zero read through the sparse documentation with growing alarm. The Cascade Protocol was mentioned in connection with every major incident involving human vessels over the past 1,000 years, but no details were provided about its nature or function. The only consistent element was the aftermath. Entire civilizations choosing to abandon their territories rather than face whatever consequences the protocol entailed. "Send an urgent message to both fleets," Zero ordered. "Recommend immediate disengagement and return to neutral positions." "Chief, neither side will listen to us. The hegemony considers this their internal affair, and the humans haven't requested our assistance." Zira looked out at the confrontation unfolding in space beyond her station. 47 massive warships surrounding 3 tiny cargo vessels, and somehow she was more concerned for the warships. "Send the message anyway," she said quietly. "Someone needs to be on record as trying to prevent what's about to happen." Aboard the Lucky Strike, Alina Rodriguez stood in her small quarters, looking out at the hegemony fleet that held her convoy captive. Her expression remained calm, but her hands moved across a communication panel with practiced efficiency. The message she sent was brief and used channels that didn't appear on any hegemony sensors. The message contained only coordinates, a time stamp, and a single word: Cascade. In the depths of space, far beyond the sensor range of any known technology, something ancient and patient received the message and began to respond. The response would take exactly 47 hours and 12 minutes to reach the Kepler system, traveling through dimensions that most species couldn't detect and using principles that defied conventional understanding of physics. Admiral Vortonus had no way of knowing that he had just triggered a sequence of events that would reshape the balance of power in his region of the galaxy. He saw only what his sensors could detect: 3 primitive human cargo ships completely at his mercy. What he couldn't see was that mercy had never been his to give. Asterisk. The consequence unfolds. Admiral Vortonus was reviewing detention reports when the first impossible thing happened. Lieutenant Gax, his sensor officer, suddenly stood up from his station with a look of complete bewilderment. "Sir, I'm getting readings that don't make sense. The human vessels appear to be ... growing. Vortonus moved to the sensor display. The 3 cargo ships that had been surrounded by his fleet for 18 hours were indeed larger than they had been. Not by much, perhaps 10%, but sensor readings didn't lie. "Run a full diagnostic on the sensor array," Vortonus ordered. "There must be equipment malfunction." But even as he spoke, the Admiral could see the human ships with his own eyes through the bridge viewports. They were definitely larger than before. Not dramatically, but enough to be noticeable to anyone who had been watching them for hours. "Captain." Rexus joined them at the sensor station, his face pale. "Sir, it's not just size. The energy signatures from their ships have increased by 300% in the last hour. Their whole composition appears to be changing as well." changing how the method. Scans show materials that weren't there before, alloys that don't exist in our databases, elements that our periodic tables don't recognize. Vortanus felt the first stirring of real unease. "Get me Captain Rodriguez, now." Elena's image appeared on the communication screen within moments, her expression as calm as ever. "Good morning, Admiral. I trust your crew had a restful night. What are you doing to your ships?" Vortanus demanded. "I'm sorry, Admiral. Could you be more specific? Your vessels are changing, growing, showing energy signatures that were not present yesterday." Elena nodded as if this were perfectly normal. "Yes, that would be expected. The Cascade Protocol typically requires about 24 hours to reach full implementation." "What is the Cascade Protocol?" "It's a standard Earth defensive measure, Admiral. Nothing to concern yourself with." Vortanus leaned forward, his 4 eyes blazing with anger. "Captain, you will explain exactly what is happening to your ships, or I will order my fleet to destroy them." Elena's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "Admiral, I would strongly advise against taking hostile action. At this point, the cascade is already in progress." "You're threatening me." "No, Admiral. I'm simply providing information that might be relevant to your decision-making process." The transmission ended, leaving Vortanus staring at the screen in frustration. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to understand what was happening to the human vessels. But their instruments seemed increasingly inadequate to the task. On Nexus 7 station, Chief Sirakel watched the unfolding situation with growing horror. Her station's advanced sensors were detecting phenomena that violated several fundamental laws of physics. The human ships were indeed changing, but in ways that should have been impossible. "Chief," her assistant Clicks buzzed urgently, "I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies around the human vessels. Space-time itself appears to be ... fluctuating." Zira studied the readings with disbelief. "That's impossible. Nothing smaller than a star can generate gravitational effects of this magnitude." "I know, Chief, but the readings are consistent across all our sensor arrays." As they watched, the impossible became routine. The human cargo ships continued grow, not just in size, but in complexity. New sections appeared, seemingly from nothing. Hull configurations shifted and evolved. Weapon systems that definitely hadn't been there before began emerging from what had appeared to be simple cargo. "Holds." "Chief," Clicks said quietly. "I think I understand what's happening. Explain." "The human ships aren't changing. They're revealing what they actually are." Zira stared at her assistant. "What do you mean?" "I mean those were never cargo ships, Chief. They were something else entirely, disguised to look like cargo ships, and now the disguise is falling away." Admiral Vortanus reached the same conclusion at almost the same moment. The vessels that had appeared to be primitive cargo haulers were revealing themselves to be something completely different. The hull plating that had looked weathered and old was peeling away like a molting shell, revealing surfaces that seemed to absorb light itself. "Sir," Captain Rexus reported, his voice tight with fear. "The human vessels are now showing energy outputs equivalent to our largest dreadnoughts. And they're still growing. How is that possible?" "I don't know, sir. Our physicists are saying the readings violate conservation of mass and energy. Matter appears to be manifesting from somewhere else." Vortanus watched in fascination and growing terror as the transformation continued. The human ships had tripled in size and were still expanding. More disturbing than their growth was their behavior. They hadn't moved from their original positions, hadn't powered weapons, hadn't even sent any communications. They simply continued their metamorphosis in complete silence. Admiral Lieutenant Gax called out, "I'm detecting similar phenomena throughout the system." "What do you mean?" "I mean the changes aren't limited to the human ship, sir. I'm getting readings from coordinates that were empty space 12 hours ago. Objects are appearing throughout the system." Vortinus rushed to the tactical display and felt his blood freeze. The holographic representation of the Kepler system now showed dozens of objects that hadn't been there before. Ships, stations, installations of unknown purpose, all appearing from nothing, all bearing the same energy signatures as the transforming human vessels. "Where did they come from?" he whispered. "Unknown, sir. They're just ... manifesting." Dr. James Park materialized on the bridge of the Lucky Strike through what appeared to be a standard teleporter beam. Though the hegemony sensors detected no transporter activity, the elderly human scientist wore simple civilian clothes and carried what looked like an ordinary data pad. "Good morning, Alina," he said cheerfully to Captain Rodriguez. "Sorry, I'm late. The dimensional interface was running a bit slow today." Alina smiled at the newcomer. "No problem, James. Right on schedule. Actually, how are the field tests going?" "Quite well. The new generation of pocket universe storage is performing exactly as predicted. We should be able to carry 40% more cargo on future runs." Their casual conversation was being monitored by every hegemony sensor system, but the words made no sense to Admiral Vortinus or his crew. Pocket universe storage, dimensional interfaces. These terms existed in theoretical physics, but no known technology could actually implement such concepts. Dr. Park turned toward the hegemony fleet with a friendly expression. "I see you've attracted some attention, Alina. Should I handle the diplomatic situation? That would be helpful, James. Admiral Vortinus seems confused about our standard operating procedures." Dr. Park nodded and activated what appeared to be a simple communication device. "Admiral Vortinus, this is Dr. James Park, Earth Diplomatic Corps. I understand there's been some concern about our cargo vessels." Vortinus found his voice with difficulty. "Dr. Park, your ships are violating several laws of physics. Our sensors are detecting impossible energy levels and mass configurations." "Ah, yes. That's quite normal for Cascade Protocol implementation. Nothing to worry about. Normal, Doctor. Matter cannot be created from nothing. Energy cannot exceed mass-energy equivalence ratios. Your ships are violating fundamental universal constants." Dr. Park looked puzzled. "Admiral, perhaps there's been a misunderstanding. Our ships aren't violating any laws of physics. You're simply observing physics that your current understanding doesn't encompass. That's impossible, is it? Admiral, your species achieved faster than light travel, correct? Of course. And 1,000 years ago, your ancestors would have considered that impossible, wouldn't they? They would have cited universal constants and fundamental laws that prohibited exceeding light speed." Vortinus had no answer for that logic. Dr. Park continued gently. "Human understanding of physics encompasses 11 spatial dimensions, 17 temporal variants, and 43 distinct forms of matter-energy interaction. Our ships operate according to perfectly normal physical laws within that framework, but our sensors are excellent instruments, Admiral, but they're designed to detect phenomena within a more limited physical model. It's not your fault that you can't measure. What you don't know exists." As if to demonstrate his point, Dr. Park gestured toward the main view. The space around the human vessels had taken on a strange quality, as if reality itself was bending. Stars, visible in the background, were shifting position, not because they were moving, but because space-time was folding round the human ships. "Admiral," Captain Rexis reported, his voice barely controlled, "our navigation systems are failing. The stellar positioning data no longer matches our star charts." "Local space-time distortion," Dr. Park explained helpfully. "The dimensional interfaces create temporary modifications to regional space-time curvature. Your navigation systems will readjust once the field effects stabilize." Vortinus stared at the human scientist. "You're casually manipulating space-time." "Itself? Well, yes. How else would you expect us to store cargo efficiently? Traditional three-dimensional holds are terribly wasteful of space." The Admiral looked at his tactical display and felt reality slipping away from him. The 3 human cargo ships were now the size of small moons, their energy outputs dwarfing his entire fleet. The mysterious objects appearing throughout the system had revealed themselves to be installations and vessels of incomprehensible design and purpose. "Dr. Park," Vortinus said quietly, "what exactly are you people?" The human scientist smiled kindly. "We're merchants, Admiral. We transport goods between worlds, facilitate trade, help colonies develop their economies. It's honest work, but the technology you're displaying is necessary for efficient cargo transport across galactic distances. You don't think we could make a profit hauling goods in primitive chemical rockets, do you?" Admiral Vortinus felt the last of his confidence crumble. His species had considered themselves among the most advanced in the galaxy. Their technology was the envy of dozens of civilizations. Their military power was unquestioned, and yet these humans were treating feats that violated known physics as routine commercial necessities. Asterisk. "Admiral," Dr. Park continued, "I should probably mention that several of your colonies have requested assistance with economic development projects. We'd be happy to negotiate cargo hauling contracts if you're interested." "Our colonies?" "Yes. We received requests from Veilthan Prime, New Hegemony, and the Outer Rim settlements. They're looking for efficient transport of agricultural equipment and industrial machinery." Vortinus stared at him. "Doctor, our colonies didn't send any requests to Earth." "Oh, they will," Dr. Park said cheerfully. "Probably sometime next week. Temporal communications are wonderful for advanced planning." The Admiral's 4 eyes widened. "You're receiving messages from the future?" "Well, yes. Linear time is another one of those limitations that becomes less relevant once you understand higher dimensional physics." Captain Rexis looked up from his tactical station with an expression of complete bewilderment. "Sir, I'm receiving reports. From our forward scouts, 3 of our border patrol fleets have ... disappeared." "Disappeared how?" "They're not responding to communications, sir. Long-range sensors show empty space where they should be stationed." Dr. Park checked his datapad with mild interest. Yes. They've been relocated to provide security for mining operations in the Andromeda Galaxy. Quite lucrative work, actually. The pay scale there is much better than military service." Vortinus felt his legs give out. He sat down heavily in his command chair. "You moved our fleets to another galaxy. We offered them better employment opportunities. They accepted. Free will and all that. But they're hegemony military forces. They can't just ... leave. Admiral, when beings are offered the choice between low-pain, dangerous military service and high-pain, safe civilian work in a galaxy full of untapped resources, what do you think they choose?" Around the bridge, hegemony officers stared. at their instruments in confusion and fear. Reports were coming in from across their empire. Military bases were abandoning their posts. Colonial governors were announcing independence. Entire star systems were declaring neutrality and requesting Earth mediation for their disputes. "You're destroying our civilization," Vortinus whispered. Dr. Park looked genuinely surprised. "Admiral, we're not destroying anything. We're simply providing alternatives. If your people are choosing to leave your empire, perhaps you should consider why they're making that choice." Alina Rodriguez joined the conversation from her position on the bridge. "Admiral, no one is being forced to do anything. We don't conquer or control other species. We just offer better options." "What kind of options?" "Economic opportunity, scientific advancement, social systems that don't require military service or imperial expansion. Most beings prefer peace and prosperity to war and conquest." Foot looked at his tactical display one final time. His massive fleet of 47 warships was now vastly outnumbered by human vessels that had appeared from nowhere. His empire was dissolving as its citizens chose alternatives that Earth provided. His entire understanding of reality had been shattered by casual demonstrations of impossible technology. "What do you want from us?" he asked quietly. Dr. Park smiled. "Nothing, Admiral. We never wanted anything from you. You initiated this encounter by detaining our cargo ships, and now you have a choice. You can continue trying to maintain an empire through military force, competing with neighbors who are receiving Earth assistance, or you can consider joining the galactic community as peaceful traders and explorers. And if we choose to fight..." "Alina," Rodriguez answered this time, her voice gentle but firm. "Admiral, you're not fighting us. You're fighting the choice your own people are making when they see better alternatives. We can't force them to stay with you, but we can't force them to leave either." High Counselor Marin of the Veilthan Hegemony received Admiral Vortinus's report 12 hours later, broadcast from the bridge of his flagship as it limped back toward home space. The Admiral's 4 eyes were dull with defeat as he described the impossible encounter with human cargo ships that had revealed themselves to be vessels of incomprehensible capability. Counselor Vortinus concluded, "I recommend immediate implementation of Protocol 7, full withdrawal from human space and diplomatic overtures for peaceful coexistence." Marin studied the tactical data with growing disbelief. According to the reports, humanity possessed technology that treated space, time, and matter as malleable resources. They could manipulate reality itself while maintaining the appearance of primitive merchants. "Admiral, are you certain this isn't some form of elaborate deception?" "Counselor, I watched 3 cargo ships transform into installations the size of small planets. I saw our fleets voluntarily relocate to another galaxy for better employment opportunities. I observed space-time being folded like origami to accommodate dimensional storage systems." Marin closed his eyes. The hegemony had expanded across 37 star systems through military conquest and economic domination. They had considered themselves near the pinnacle of galactic civilization. "Counselor," Admiral Vortinus continued, "I don't believe we ever had any chance of victory. I don't think humanity even considered us a threat worthy of military response. They simply ... offered our people better alternatives. And our people accepted, unanimously, sir. Every single hegemony citizen who was given the choice has opted for Earth-sponsored relocation or employment. Our border worlds are declaring independence. Our military is requesting discharge to accept civilian positions with human trading." companies. Marin opened his eyes and looked at the star charts showing his crumbling empire. Admiral, what is your personal recommendation? Request an audience with Earth diplomatic representatives. Negotiate terms for peaceful coexistence. And never, ever attempt to detain human vessels again. 3 days later, Captain Alina Rodriguez sat in her quarters aboard the Lucky Strike, now restored to its original appearance as a simple cargo hauler. Her convoy had completed its delivery to Kepler Station without further incident. The hegemony fleet had withdrawn to their own space, and normal shipping schedules had resumed. Dr. Park materialized beside her desk through the dimensional interface. How did the field tests go, Alina? Perfectly. The new stealth systems maintained complete effectiveness throughout the encounter. The locals never realized what they were actually looking at, and the Cascade Protocol worked exactly as designed. Full defensive capability deployment in under 24 hours, complete with temporal communication and dimensional storage access. Dr. Park nodded with satisfaction. Excellent. The commercial applications should be ready for fleet-wide implementation. Within 6 months, Alina smiled as she looked out at the stars. James, do you think they'll ever figure out that we're not actually merchants? Alina, we are merchants. We just happen to be merchants who possess technology that other species consider impossible. And if they ever discover what Earth is really like, Dr. Park chuckled, they'll discover that we're a species that chose to explore the universe through trade rather than conquest, that we developed technology to create abundance rather than scarcity, that we prefer making friends to making enemies, and that we're very, very good at both. Especially that, Dr. Park agreed. Now, about our next delivery run, ... Alina pulled up her shipping schedule with a grin. The galaxy was full of opportunities for peaceful merchants who happened to possess technology that treated the fundamental forces of reality as engineering problems. It was good work, and someone had to do it. Asterisk.